Hey guys, I'm really excited to talk to you about this subject. It's a question that we get a lot, and for some reason I think I probably have never answered this in a video. But here's a question that we recently received. Will a collection agency do a pay for delete on my credit reports? So you have something on your credit report, a debt collector, and you're saying, maybe I owe it, maybe I don't owe it, but regardless, I'd be willing to pay them something if they would just come off my credit report. So will they do that? Here's the very simple answer. Maybe. Some do, some don't. The way you find out is you ask for it. Now, you have to ask for it before you make an agreement to pay them money. In other words, if you're negotiating with them and you agree to $1,000 by Friday and you say, okay, we got a deal. And they go, great, pay us on Friday. And you say, oh, and by the way, I want you to delete it. They're going to say, yeah, there ain't a chance in the world we're going to do that. You'd have to pay more money for that. So you've got to ask for it before you actually get to the agreement amount or all the terms of the agreement. Now, I'll give you two strategies. And it's not that one's better than the other. It's just they take a different approach, and you have to decide what you feel most comfortable with. So one approach is you ask at the beginning. And the other approach is you almost get to the final settlement, and then you bring it up. So let me kind of walk you through this. Asking at the beginning, you would call a collector, and they identify you, pull up your account, and they say, okay, you owe $2,000, and you say, look, and obviously tell them the truth. I'm just saying this would be an example. He said, look, I got 5 collectors. I don't have enough money to pay all you guys. I'm going to pay whoever will delete it off my credit report. Will you do a pay for delete? And if you won't, no problem. Just note that I dispute this debt, and then we're done talking. And if they say, no, we won't, you go, thank you very much, goodbye. And the conversation's over. Now, you've disputed it, and we talk about this in other videos. When they update your credit report, they have to mark it as being disputed, or you can sue them for that. That would be under Section 1692E8. But the other approach is, you're talking to them, they say you owe a couple $1,000, and, they say, look, I can cut you a deal for $1,750, and you say, hey, I'll pay you $250, and they go, we'll take $1,500. You negotiate back and forth, and finally they say, all right, $1,000 as low as I can go, but I have to have that in within 14 days. And you say, okay, I think I can do that. And so now the collector, he's already adding up what's his commission going to be. Is this going to let him make his numbers for this month? Is he going to win the trip, win the bonus? And so he's already kind of spending that money, if you will. But before you finally agree, you say, oh, and by the way, you have to delete it. I'll do everything you told me, but you have to delete it. Now, sometimes they'll say, I'm sorry, we have an absolute policy forbidding a pay for delete. Okay. And then you move on to the next one. But he might say, oh, let me see what I can do. And, maybe he comes back with more money, or he says, fine, if you get it in, by the deadline, get the amount, the type of funds. In other words, they might say, send a cashier's check, money order, whatever they say. Then that'll work. So here's the deal. If you get them, whichever approach you take, if you get them to agree to delete the credit report, you have to have that in writing. Now, that could be an email. Okay, now it needs to be an email from the company, okay, not, bobsmith@gmail.com. It needs to actually be from the company where you can use that later if they refuse to follow through, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you got to make sure it's in writing. They can fax you a letter, they can mail you a letter, and they'll say, well, this will slow it down. You go, that's okay. I'm standing by. As soon as I get that letter, I'll call you and pay over the phone, or I'll jump on your website, pay online, or I'll FedEx you the money order. In other words, you can sort of roll with whatever they say. They're like, well, this is going to delay it. It's like, no. It'll just delay it a couple days for you to mail me a letter, and then I'll immediately send you the money. It'll be perfect. And see if you can get them to do that. But you've got to get it in writing. If it's not in writing and they break their deal with you, you can still sue them, but it sure is harder if it's not in writing. Now, you could also record the call if both sides agree that the call can be recorded. In other words, you agree to it, and when you call, they say, hey, please be advised, this call may be recorded. Okay. Well, they're agreeing to it. It's the way I look at it. Obviously, use your own judgment on that, but that's the approach I take. So let me just sort of give you an idea here of why I say you've got to be so careful with them. Even when it's in writing, there's a decent chance that they will not take this off the credit report. So we had a case where they sent our guy a letter saying, you pay X number of dollars coming off your credit report. Pretty simple. He pays them the money. They take the money, clears the bank, all that stuff. And like 6 months later, he's buying a house, and lo and behold, it's on his credit report. And he calls the collector. He says, hey, 6 months ago, we agreed to this. You know what their response was? No, we didn't. He goes, yeah, you agreed to it. They said, no, we would never agree to that. He's like, I've got a letter from you. They go, we don't believe you. You don't have a letter. He's like, look in your file. You'll see the letter. Gave them the date. Gave them the person's name. They said, you're lying. You made up that letter. We never sent you that letter. He's like, look in your file. They go, we don't even need to look in our file. We know we didn't do that. And we're not going to take this off your credit report. So then he disputes it with the credit bureaus. Now, he did not have to do that. He could have just sued them under the FDCPA. Go back to that section, 1692E8 says, any false credit reporting. Well, this is obviously false credit reporting because they promised to delete it, and now they're not. And so he could have just sued them, but he went the extra mile. He disputed it through the credit bureaus. The collection agency reports back to the credit bureaus, reports back to the credit bureau saying, this is accurate, keep it. And he even included the letter, so he disputes it again. And then they say, oh, well, now we'll mark it as a zero balance, and we'll put that you just made a payment yesterday. Well, that was even more damaging to his credit report. So we sue him, and it's the same defense we get every debt collector we sue. They go, oh, the new person hit F8 instead of F7. It's just an error. We had no idea we made this error. It's like, yeah, you made the error when you didn't code it properly. And then when he called you, you didn't look it up. That was another error. And you accused him of lying. That was another error. And then when you got notified by the credit bureaus, he disputed it. All three credit bureaus notify you. You refuse to look through your file. Like, you can't have that many errors in a row. And so I bring that up just to say, this is how bad these guys are. So if you have it in writing and there's still a chance they're going to break their deal, then you can imagine if it's just verbal. So, when they do this, here's the way I look at this. And I'm sort of being funny here, but I view this as like a cry for help. They're saying, please, we want to pay you money, and maybe lots of money. And hey, if they're desperate to pay us money and pay our clients money, who are we to stand in the way of that? So we sue them. We accommodate them. But look, get it in writing and get the deadline. Like, when are they going to request that it be deleted from the credit bureaus? And then make sure that you are totally in compliance with that. So if they say, we need $1,000 by Friday and a money order sent to this P.O. box, we'll do it. Don't send it so it's delivered on Saturday. Don't put a personal check if they say it has to be a money order. Don't make it for $999 if the agreement is $1,000. In other words, you want to be 100% in compliance. If you realize you're going to miss that date or there's some problem, before you send them money, call them back. Say, hey, I got a problem. I couldn't get to the bank or whatever. Can we extend the deadline or can we change this, and get that in writing? Or again, make sure it's at least recorded, but I prefer it to be in writing. And then if you comply, then you want to make sure they comply. So you can wait the period of time they say, and that certainly is a valid strategy. Or you may even want to send a dispute to the credit bureaus and say, look, these guys agreed to delete it. Make sure that they delete it. And then the credit bureaus will notify the collector. Now, if the collector says, give me 60 days, then it's questionable whether if you immediately dispute it and they don't delete it before 60 days, whether that violates the agreement. So I would, give them till that 60 days. But if you disputed it, on day 1 and they verify it on day 30, then on day 60 they don't delete it. On day 90 they don't delete it. And then you sue them. It's like, man, I gave you a bunch of chances, guys. You just weren't going to delete this. So I hope that that's helpful to you. And if you're in this situation, my suggestion is follow those steps. Get it in writing. Make sure you comply with everything. And then make sure they comply with their end of the deal, which is to delete the credit reporting. So if you have any comments, put those below. And thanks for watching this video. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.